What are feelings and emotions? How important are they to us? Why are there good and bad feelings? Let's start. We all know that there is an emotional background in us, a state of being, which measures the psychological situation in which we find ourselves. We can feel happiness, sadness, episodes of joy or hatred, internal sensations, which evaluate how we feel. At first glance, we could consider them as the engine of motivation or frustration that influences the decisions we make or fail to make. It seems that moods, produced by emotions, and then by established feelings, are caused by releases of biomolecules, neurotransmitters, which communicate neurons with other neurons, and much more. In other words, the cause of being depressed, or being happy, happens at a chemical and neuronal level. These processes, which happen in the brain, produce that I have to suffer all these things in flesh and blood, and I have a bad or good time for as long as it is, because some molecules are released. That is, physical and chemical reactions make me live a shitty life, or the best experience of all. Because there are no rules here as to why you should feel happy. One can be happy because he likes nature, or wants to be surrounded by the company of animals, be devoted to science, art, composing music, or making soap bubbles. What one needs to be happy may horrify another. But that feeling, in essence, makes a person feel the same way, whatever the activity that produces it. At a superficial level, everything happens according to the experiences one has, the situations. But at a deeper level, it is the associated emotions and feelings that say whether it is a good or bad experience. When we have to make life decisions, whether trivial or of great importance, that value, or judgment, by which we reach a decision, is influenced by feelings, to a greater or lesser extent. Let's say that we don't like our job, that we would love to leave it, for whatever reason, because we hate it, because we don't like the schedule, because of the boss, the colleagues, or because of the task itself. That is a feeling that pushes you to want to quit. An internal feeling that you would like to disappear. It can disappear by quitting, or by changing the approach and seeing it from another perspective. But you want to quit, you are determined. But what happens, you analyze it, and you realize that maybe they pay you well, or you have some security being there, or you are afraid of not getting a better job, or for your family, or for various reasons. Well, you have left your job or you have not left it, based on emotions and feelings, which are nothing more than the values on which you base your decision. Because maybe you think that you will not be able to find a better job, and if you have left a secure job, another will also think the same, but will say, well, I'll find a way to make a living, and one does, and another does not. The ideas and ways of thinking carry an emotional addition that pushes us, or breaks us. Every psychological thought is associated with a feeling, or the other way around. They can be imperceptible, but not all feelings have a high emotional dose. A simple fact like being lying on the couch, and having to get up to I don't know, drink water, or open the door, and that, what laziness, that is already an emotional value that can make you decide between getting up, or continue lying down. Look what nonsense. Well, that happens all the time. There are several types of thought. At an informative level, as pure knowledge, they should not be emotionally linked. But those that are directly or indirectly related to our person, with, let's say, the ego, they are. I can ask you if you know what a swing is, and you will tell me that it is a game for children and so on, and it is not psychologically charged, but maybe someone else will answer me, what is a swing? Look, don't talk to me about swings, I almost cracked my head open when I was a kid. This one does carry a. The same word may or may not carry psychological connotations. There are no defined boundaries. There is only the fact of whether or not there is a personal link. Are feelings and emotions rational? If you are in a dangerous situation, and you run away, or if you are on the edge of a cliff, and your legs tremble, and you turn back, then of course, survival. Staying safe, logical. Situations are decided by assessment. Then you can regret it or not, but that does not mean they are not rational. When we see those episodes of anger, of excessive jealousy, that end in tragedy, of ambitions to achieve anything at any cost, even affecting others, and doing much damage around, when we see that there is discrimination, wars, conflicts, the chaotic disorder we live in, with problems everywhere, and all social areas, there we see the irrationality of the emotional and psychological. All human problems, whatever they are, indisputably come from feelings and emotions. They are the ones that lead forward to execute an action. Religions have an emotional influence. Why do some people get attached to one religion or another? What makes them follow a dogma or a doctrine? What makes them follow certain steps? Because one is psychologically linked to it, either by culture or tradition. It leads you to believe in it. You resolve that it is a reality. You feel identified. You have faith. Faith is what sustains a belief. If you did not believe and did not have faith, you would not follow it. The same happens with ideologies, social areas, staying with your partner for so many years, continuing with your hobbies, going on a trip, going to the mountains, watching a movie, reading a book, playing video games, playing sports, painting. Because everything contributes emotionally. Psychologically fills you up, makes you feel good. Anything that does not contribute anything to you emotionally, that is indifferent to you psychologically, you are not conditioning yourself to that. If you are not a follower of any soccer club, if you don't like soccer, whether one team wins or another, you don't care, you will sleep the same that night. But if your team is in the final of the World Cup, you are a very fanatic fan, and your team loses or wins, it will inevitably influence how you will face the day when the referee signals the end of the match. If you are conditioning your partner, if you are emotionally dependent on him/her being with you or not, if he/she leaves you, you will have a great emotional conflict. If little by little you no longer feel that affection for the other person, and she ends up leaving him, it may hardly affect you, and you may even end up leaving him yourself. Imagine how different a person's life would be with just a few emotional changes. Maybe sometime you get stuck in a depression. You get stuck in a way of seeing things, which plunges you into a sadness that you have nowhere to take it. Whether or not you get out of it depends on your ability to change the way you see that situation, to reverse it, or that something happens in your life that helps you change your perception. But you will have lost days, months, or years of your life, dedicated to being bad, and not living fully. Why does this happen to us? Do all other living beings carry feelings over time? In general, as far as we can observe, the rest of the species live more in the situational moment than we do. They live in the moment. They seem to be stimulated by the elements of the environment, in the active present. Not us. We can think about whatever we want. We can consult our problems or objectives at any time. We can even dedicate days and days and days to a specific subject. We can even be absent from the active present, psychologically absorbed. We are trapped by our problems. They do not leave us calm. Why? Because there is an emotional demand within us. We have to solve, to close the circle. When we solve a problem, it is over. We are free of it. Otherwise, we remain conditioned. If something makes us feel good, makes us happy, we want to keep it, maintain it over time, protect it. But then come the fears, insecurities, worries that we lose that source of pleasure or happiness, or that the passage of time itself makes us lose that feeling, or another problem arises, which makes your happiness change. You cannot maintain a state of mind indefinitely. Things change, whether we want or not, and then we go in search of another stimulus that makes us feel the way we want. The emotional state is more important than we can imagine. Sometimes it goes unnoticed, but it is in constant contact with the way we live. That notion of good and bad is characteristic in us. Positive or negative emotions. That thermometer that classifies to one side or the other. We are ourselves. What benefits us psychologically brings us pleasure, well-being, satisfaction, joy, happiness, and what harms us brings us sadness, hatred, pain, suffering, rejection. All these personal processes create conflict in us. Is it good to rely on feelings and emotions? Is it the natural way to live? If we didn't, what would happen? What would everyone's life be like? Would it be worthless to be alive? Does the existence of feelings and emotions give us that value of life? Or is there something else we don't really know? Is the understanding of life emotional? Or is it totally different from that? See you next time.